All right, I think we are live now. Hey, everybody.
You have four.
Welcome to this week's Boss Up and List live show. It is Wednesday, which means it is our if you're not in the Boss Facebook group, you're missing out on the party. But thanks for being here. And this week we are joined by Theresa Cox.
Woohoo!
We're going to talk about some exciting stuff. Theresa, as you know or should know, is our fearless leader of the Boss Facebook group. And we're going to talk a little bit about your trip last week to Washington, D.C., as well as get into the whole 2018 summer seller update and hopefully answer some questions, calm some fears, calm people down, and motivate you guys to keep doing awesome work. But anyway, so Theresa, how's your week been?
Are we going to do a little meditation so people can chill out about the update?
Yes, of course. Ooh, we've already got like 30 people watching. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here.
It's all good, people.
It is all good. Thanks for coming and being here late with us. We usually do the show at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We did push it back to 2 p.m. because eBay was doing a bunch of live videos on Facebook today talking about the seller updates, and we just wanted people to get a chance to go and watch those and see if any of their questions would be answered before they came here, and then maybe we could kind of delve further into some of the stuff people are concerned about. But yeah, so thanks for being here, and maybe, who knows, maybe some of you were able to be here because we started later, so that's good too. So welcome to everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Yep. So Theresa, you were in DC last week. What's up with that?
DC was awesome and overwhelming and incredible. And
why were you there?
So I was there as part of the DC government relations team, and some of you may or may not know, but eBay has an entire team of employees. What would I say? I wanted to say stationed in DC, but located in DC. That work on our behalf for legislation, and most of us know the internet sales tax, net neutrality, definition of a small business as far as sales tax go, and the NAFTA agreement. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that impact us. We got a meeting with some senior White House officials, so senior that I didn't know who any of them were, but that's beside the point. And they were telling us about stuff that they were doing that we didn't have a clue. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that go on behind the scenes. Well, not behind the scenes, we just don't know about it, that impact us as small business and online sellers. But we didn't even have a clue what was going on. And so I got to go and participate in that and meet with some senators and representatives from my district and other sellers district, and just kind of, put our story out there to help them, to motivate them to vote on this legislation that would benefit small business and online sellers. So
awesome. And eBay does this every year. They do like the DC fly-in, correct?
Yeah, this is the 13th annual year. eBay puts a ton of money into this, and so as a small seller, a small business seller, I was very impressed with the presence that eBay has in DC on our behalf. I mean, it's not like, Walmart doing it or Wayfair or any of these other places. Like, DC is doing it for us. I mean, DC is not a platform. I mean, eBay is not a platform where they have inventory like Amazon. Why do I keep saying DC? eBay is a platform of just putting sellers together with buyers. And so it's a totally unique situation. And I just felt really good that they were there doing and spending all this time and effort and energy on doing something that would benefit all of us. So kudos and shout out to eBay for that.
Yeah, super awesome. And here's the thing. It's like most of us are small sellers, small business owners, and we don't have the resources to be able to go ourselves and, lobby our leaders in Washington. We don't have the resources to hire like lobbyists. And so that's part of what eBay does for us, is that they are there. And by sending people like you, like every year they choose sellers that kind of represent, they try and represent all the different sellers that are on eBay to go and talk about these things with our representatives. It's a way for us to be heard and hopefully to affect change there I think this year probably more than any other year, there's a lot going on that could impact us either negatively or positively. If you don't know anything about like net neutrality, there are issues around that where if net neutrality is ended, then potentially the cable companies, the internet companies could charge for faster speeds to get to someone's site. So what does that mean? That means if you own a website, let's say you're a small business and you have your own website, you're using like Shopify or something like that, you would potentially need to pay a fee in order to get your pages to load quickly enough so people could actually go and shop on your site. And the same would be true for eBay. And so something like that were to go through and the companies could charge eBay in order to have serviceable like speeds to go to the website to shop from us. Well, it's going to end up costing a lot more to do business on eBay. That's going to cost us sellers more because, of course, it would probably end up being like higher fees, which rightfully so. It's like the cost would go up a lot or could go up a lot in order just to keep things running as they are now. And then there's the sales tax. I don't know if you want to talk about the sales tax a little bit, Theresa.
Yeah, so one we had a couple of key points that we were there to talk about, and interesting. One of them was the internet sales tax that the Supreme Court is supposed to make a decision on this end of May, middle of June, and it's everybody we talked to was like 50-50 chance of them holding it up or shooting it down. But everybody said that no matter which way the Supreme Court went, it was probably going to be pushed back to Congress to make some kind of a bill or ordinance to define this, because if they uphold it, there's still going to be a definition. If they shoot it down, then it's going to be on Congress to define. And the big issue is what's the definition of a small business? And so everybody sees this, statewide or this net tax, internet sales tax. It's coming. It's not if, it's when. But we kept talking about we want to carve out for small sellers and small businesses. What's the definition? And there's some talk about having it be $1 million in sales, and we all think that that's way too small. Like $1 million in sales is not $1 million in profit. And so we were pushing for $10 million in sales. And interestingly enough, two of the guys that we traveled in groups. And so I met with, I was with a seller from Utah and a seller from Colorado. The seller from Colorado did $20 million a year in sales on eBay. And the one from Utah, he said he did right around $1 million. Some years it was just under, some years it was just over. So in the years that it's just over, he was selling servers that could be $25,000 or $30,000 servers. And that one server, that one sale could push him from being a small business into having to report the sales tax. And it's not just the idea of having to do it. And see, everybody says, well, eBay should just do it like Amazon. But eBay doesn't hold the goods. eBay doesn't have the supplies. And even if eBay did it, we sell on Mercari and Posh and all these other things. And we would still then have to do it for those sites. And it's a much bigger issue than I think that a lot of sellers realize. And one of the things that we really tapped into, and mostly because I used to have to deal with sales tax in my previous life when I was the director of finance at the UCI libraries, University of California at Irvine libraries. And I think I had 3 different sales audits at my time there. And I had a whole team of people and a sophisticated software, and it was still very time consuming. And the idea is that with over 10,000 sales tax jurisdictions in the country, we would have to remit or collect and remit to potentially 10,000 different sales tax jurisdictions. And while that sounds like, oh, we can have software or whatever, but if you have to collect and remit, then you're open up for audits. And if you get audited, it's at your expense at their location. So if I sell a $25 T-shirt to Bangor, Maine, and Bangor, Maine decides to audit me, it's at my expense to fly to Bangor, Maine. And that could happen, it could happen once a quarter. It could happen in 10 different jurisdictions in the same quarter. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. And so that is a burden that small businesses just can't bear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you're right. This is not an issue that's going to go away because, as retail moves from brick and mortar to online, and it's happened probably more quickly over the last 10 years, it's just going to keep going. All of that, like those sales taxes that are collected within different jurisdictions, like they're losing all that revenue and they're looking for ways to get it back. And so it's not just going to go away with one vote. So it's something that we as small sellers, online sellers, need to be paying attention to. We need to be voicing our opinion about it. We need to be contacting our representatives and getting involved, and also seeing that eBay is doing a lot of this work for us, but we need to get involved too and be doing whatever we can to help with that.
Yeah, and one of the things is, if you guys don't follow eBay Main Street, is what eBay Main Street on Facebook, look it up and then follow them. And every now and then they'll post a link to a petition to sign. And I got one this morning and I posted it in the Boss group. So if you're in the Boss group, look it up and then go ahead and just, it's really quick and easy to do. Click on the link, put your name in there and sign the petition. And eBay doesn't send these out just, on a whim. They're very well thought out, the ones that they think that they need more support on. And so, whatever Facebook group you're in, whether you're a eBay seller or not, this will impact anybody that shops online. And so, I mean, more impact for the sellers, but still, it doesn't hurt you to sign it if you're a buyer as well.
Well, yeah, and it's true that if the costs go up a lot for sellers, then that's going to be passed along to the buyer. So it's going to affect us either way if you're shopping online or selling online.
Yeah. So it's an awesome experience, and I was very honored to have been chosen to do it. And then you're going to back me. And then and I hope I get to go again next year, because this was my rookie year, and I did a lot of watching and observing. The two guys that I was with, Mac and Brian, they were and their responses were very succinct. They were very knowledgeable about the issues, and I was just impressed at the way they articulated their thoughts on the subject. And so I hope I get to go again next year, so that I can be that person next year, because it was really my rookie year and I learned a lot.
Yeah, Allison from Big Drift Thrift says that she needs to bust out her schoolhouse of rock,
Amen.
Her schoolhouse rock DVDs to watch the government and law ones.
Amen. A bill.
For sure.
Something about a bill is a bill.
Bottom line, even if you don't know how any of it works, they want to hear from us as their constituents. So the more vocal you are, the more active you are, and letting them know like how different things are going to affect you. It does matter. They want to get reelected. Some of them just want to do the right thing. Some of them, they're more concerned with getting reelected. And either way, it's like they need to know what the people they represent are wanting or needing. So, the more they hear from us, the better.
Yeah. So Heather wanted to know where did I go? So I went to DC, in case you're just tuning in, on eBay. eBay Government Relationships has a annual, what they call DC Fly-In Advocacy Day. And there were 20 sellers this year that went and participated, and I was one of the 20. And it was an awesome experience. And interestingly enough, so they, I don't know what goes first. I'm sure that they picked the sellers first, and then they arranged meetings with our representatives. So we had, I'm from Arizona, and so my two senators are Senator McCain, who wasn't in his office, and we didn't meet with his staffers, and Senator Flake. And we met with his staff in his office, not with him. And then we met with my district representative, Andy Biggs. And it's funny because you go around and there's the woman from the government relationships team, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Ashley from eBay." And then Bob Coupins happened to be in my group, and "Hi, I'm Bob from eBay." And he talks about his. And I said, "Hi, I'm Theresa Cox, and I'm from Gilbert." And the representative's eyes light up. "Oh, a real life constituent." And so that was kind of cool that, and because I live in Gilbert and my office is in Queen Creek, I did mention that. He's like, "Oh, we have a twofer here." So they really did. In particular, he was grateful and happy to have a constituent in his office in DC. There was a lot of voting going on, and I guess that's unusual. So he had to leave early to go for a vote. And then when we met with Senator Hatch from Utah, that time was cut short as well, because he had to go and actually vote on the net neutrality, which they held up the net neutrality ruling, whatever you want to call it. I didn't realize that the Senate was voting on net neutrality, but they were. So yeah, so it was good. And I came back and in my meetup group, if you're in the Phoenix area and you don't know, I've got a meetup group. It's called EBs, East Valley Innovative eBay Sellers, and there's a Facebook group. So reach out there if you are in the Phoenix area. But I posted something in there, link to a website. So I want to find out who our representatives are that are represented in the meetup group and reach out to their offices. And the eBay government relationships team is going to help us with all of this stuff. But after going to DC, I definitely want to be more involved with our area representatives, just so that they know, this is what we feel and this is what we need. And, you want our vote, this is what you need to be looking at. So.
Very cool. Heather wants to know why you were chosen. Do you have any idea like what their criteria is?
I don't know. I don't think that they had somebody from Arizona in the last couple of years, and that may be something different. I do know that last year when they were talking about the whole sales tax stuff, I don't know if I put it in a blog or something. I talked about, when I worked at UC Irvine Libraries, I had to become sort of a sales tax guru, just because library periodicals are taxed at a very odd way. Like it was it depends on how many periodicals were issued each year and whether it was quarterly, and some were taxed and some weren't taxed. And I inadvertently became a sales tax guru in the state of California. And so I was very interested in this whole sales tax stuff. And I don't know, maybe somebody just tapped into that. Who knows? I don't know why I was chosen, but I do follow the eBay Main Street. I do comment on their blogs and their posts. And if you want to get involved, then I would just suggest doing that. Follow them on Twitter and respond, and, just.
Yeah, I think they just recognize also like, who the leaders are within the seller community, and people who interact a lot on the social media and are well-spoken and things like that, because clearly they're people who are invested and they feel like would represent sellers well.
Yeah, and me, I probably make about 200, maybe 250 a year across all platforms. And, I was with a guy that was making $1 million on eBay, and a guy that was making 20 million on eBay just alone. So it's not just by sales or anything like that. I don't know. I mean, make yourself known, be positive. Don't be one of these whiners and complainers, and, eBay will find you.
Very true. All right. So I'm sure all of you should know by now that this week, actually just yesterday, right? Yesterday morning, they came out with the 2018 summer seller update. Did everybody get a chance to check that out? Teresa's over there raising the roof.
Yeah.
So Theresa, did you want to give a little pep talk before we get into this?
No, let's just go for it.
No, let's just go for it.
So here,
I do want to say one thing. I saw, anytime that there's a seller update, there is a certain amount of people who, kind of freak out. I think for anyone, I think it's human nature for people to not like change. So I get that. And plus we are business owners. And so anytime there's any kind of change that comes along, we have to think about like, how is that going to affect the way that we do business? Is it going to hurt us? Is it going to help us? And of course, there's going to be some anxiety around that. I did see somebody commented somewhere about this, and they made some comment along the lines of, it's my business and I have a right to run it the way I want to. And they're saying that in a pretty negative way. And I have to say, like, okay, that's true. Everybody, you all have your own businesses. You have a right to do whatever you want with your businesses, to run them how you want. But the bottom line is, if you are using someone else's platform, in this case, you're using eBay to sell on, they get to decide how things are going to go. And then you certainly get to decide based on kind of how things go, whether or not you want to sell on there. I know for me, like when I first started with eBay, I was selling, I started Amazon at the same time because they gave me like the 10 item per month limit on eBay. And I was just ready to start trying to sell online. So I put my 10 things up on eBay, and I thought, I'll check out this whole Amazon FBA thing. And I started selling, sending tons of stuff into Amazon. And I did that for a few months, but I kind of quickly figured out that I just didn't really like selling on Amazon. I didn't really like the process. I didn't like the fee structure. I just didn't like, there's a lot to it. A lot of different factors that kind of make me not really like it that much. I still sell a little bit on there, but I haven't sent anything new in there for like 2 years for FBA. I have a few things merchant fulfilled that I sell. But for the most part, it's like, I just don't really like the platform.
Right.
So I don't really use it. but I love eBay. I just do. I love the community. I love the platform itself. I really am a big believer in, if you follow best practices, you're going to do well. As long as you're always trying to learn and improve and adapt. So it works for me. I have no interest in starting my own website and trying to do this all on my own. I just don't. I don't know about you, Theresa, but
no. And why would you? I mean, eBay has 172 million active buyers on the site. Why would you get all that traffic for pennies? And I get it, and it frustrates me. I get the frustration when there's one of these seller updates that come out in some ways, and in some ways I'm like, really? Like, I've worked in large corporations. I helped my mom run a brick and mortar quilt shop for 17 years. I did the bookkeeping for her for that. What we get for what we pay is ridiculously cheap. But I get that if you don't have that experience in that background, and you're just somebody buying something for $1 and selling it for 10, that you think that loss of that 10% in your final value fee, people are still bitching about that, and I don't get it. So I tell people, they're still talking about, well, if they didn't take away my 10% final value fee credit, if you're selling $3,000 a month, your final value fee, that loss of 10% is about $33. And these people are just hung up on complaining about something that happened. How long ago was that? 1.5 years, 2 years ago? And I just want to go, get over it. It's not going to come back. And it's $33 a month if you sell $3,000. Like, why are we still complaining about, why are we wasting time complaining about this?
Well, and I really think that I think I've talked about this before. I really think that people assume that because there is this platform out there, whether it's Amazon or eBay or Etsy or Poshmark, because it's there and you go buy some stuff and you put it up for sale, that somehow you're almost entitled to make sales. Like, you're just going to start making sales. And it's just really super easy. But this is a business like any other business. And some people are going to be good at it. And some people are going to be terrible at it. And some people are going to be good right away. And some people are going to have to work super hard to figure it out and to grow and get better at it. And some people are going to try for a long time and they're just never going to quite succeed. And that is normal. That's how business works. And I know for me, it's like, I want to help people. I want to help as many people as possible to get better at it and to be able to succeed at it. And I will do anything I can to help any of you to do that. But you have to understand that it's not a given that you are automatically going to be successful. And we work in an industry that is always changing, that is dependent on technology and dependent on the market and to changes in how buyers want to experience buying online. And there's always going to be ways that it's going to be changing. And we're not necessarily going to like those changes as they come. But in order to succeed, we have to learn how to adapt to them. And maybe it's on another platform. Maybe it's not always going to be on eBay. But any platform is going to change as time goes by and the market changes. It's just a reality.
And here's the reality. Everybody, people complain about, oh, it's this and it's that. And it was so much better. We made so many sales back in, 1996 or whatever. And the reality is that e-commerce has changed. And if eBay doesn't change with e-commerce, then we're going to lose traffic to the site. And so today, reading a lot of the comments and such, I see that, some of the complaints, I'm like, seriously, people, why are you spending all your time and energy making these kind of complaints about what's already happened? Instead of, even in the eBay for Business Live thing, people were complaining before they had even finished telling us what the change was about. And so sometimes people are more interested in getting their point and their frustration out than listening to what the changes mean for us. And so, people are saying, oh, eBay's just trying to be Amazon. Well, no, eBay's not trying to be Amazon, but guess what? E-commerce world is more used to what Amazon is doing and some of the different things. And so if eBay still continues to be the auction site that it hasn't been for years, and without these, I get the use for a catalog. I understand why people are so upset about it, but I understand the need for it. If you've actually seen it being demonstrated, and I saw this when I was at eBay in February. They did the Nest thermometer or maybe it was an iPhone, I don't remember. But they just do, iPhone 10. there's 138,000 listings. And then if you click on the thing where it sort of condenses it, you have 118. And all that does is that means that there in the 138,000 listings, there are 118 variations. And so those variations can be the type, the color, the memory, the new or used or whatever. And so rather than me as a buyer having to wade through 138,000 listings, I can wade through 110 or whatever it turned out to be much easier. So as a buyer, that's going to be better for me as a buying experience. And I think that people get all wrapped up in what they think this is going to be instead of taking the time to understand what it actually is. And that's where they get all fired up over stuff that they don't even know. And we saw it with the whole thing with the 60-day free return or 30-day free returns. I'm sorry. And we know this. It's like people are thinking, oh, this isn't going to work and I'm going to lose money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why don't you try it first? And then if it doesn't work for you, guess what? eBay gives you four other options. You have 5 different return options. Now, you try that on Amazon. You don't get any choice on Amazon. If a customer on Amazon says that they want to return it, fine. Ask me. I know. I sell shoes on Amazon, and I get shoes returned after somebody's worn them in 3 or 4 games, and soccer cleats or whatever. And there's nobody for me to call. There's no Facebook page for me to complain on all day. I just have to accept that return. So I think that while people may not like it, I think that we have a lot more choices than people understand that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hearing echo on your end. Do you have headphones or something, Theresa?
I don't. I left them at home.
Suddenly my voice is going.
You're good to me.
Okay, let's see, what was I thinking? So I was going to say that, and here's the thing, eBay's not perfect. They've made changes before that didn't do as well. They've had to roll things back before. Not everything is going to be perfect. There's always going to be room for improvement. And clearly, the reason they always have these seller updates is because quarter to quarter, they see other things that need improvement. And so it's certainly not a perfect system. But the thing is that unlike some of the other platforms, like you were talking about with Amazon, they do actually listen to us. They do actually engage with the seller community. And it may not feel that way sometimes, but a lot of times it has to do with how you talk to them about it. If you're just coming and you're complaining about something before you've even had a chance to try it, to even see if it works, they're probably less likely to listen. But if you come to them with constructive criticism and here's something that I've tried and here's what the results have been, and maybe we could try doing something different. You're more likely to be able to see some sort of change, which does take time. I know, Theresa, you've talked to them about different features that you've wanted to see, and after a year, you finally see it happen. And it's it does take time, but you want to be engaged. You want to have a civil conversation about what it is, but also be ready to try things first before you freak out. With free returns, try it for a month or 2. If you get the 10% discount, try it for a little while after June 1st comes around and see, while you still have your 10% discount, see if you do actually spend more money than your discount on return labels, or if you're unable to resell those returned items. Maybe it's not going to be as scary as you think it is, but it's all a matter of trying it. And I know that, Theresa, you and I are eBay influencers. And so, we've been seen as leaders in the community that have a voice amongst the seller community. And so it's having discussions like this, where we have people come in and participate in the chat and talk about your concerns, but talk about them in a way where we actually work through them and try to see is there another way that this issue could be solved. We can have this kind of conversations and then hopefully take that information back to eBay and let them know hey, here's some really valid concerns that a lot of buyers or a lot of the sellers have in the seller community. Is there a way that we can address this? And they are listening. They really are. But people need to participate in stuff like this. You guys that are here in the chat, we've got 60 people watching right now. This is your opportunity to have a good conversation about it, where we actually talk about how can we take on this change in a positive way that's going to help our businesses? Are there some features to this update that maybe are going to hurt us, and how can we deal with that? I know for me, there's at least a couple where I was a little bummed when I heard about them, and I had to process it for a few days for a while and figure out how am I going to deal with this, So it just, I don't know. It's you got to change with times, man.
here's the thing. Once we see the seller update has gone out, eBay has thought this through. They've got, I mean, eBay's not just doing this on a whim. This seller update has probably been in the works for 6, 9 months, maybe even a year. I don't know how long. But when they release it, and they know that the response, whatever the response is going to be, that some people are going to have a hard time digesting it. It's already done. And so rather than spend 2 days, and trust me, because I read the comments, I want to see what people are concerned about. And I read the comments, and sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, people just this is why I wore my shirt. Sometimes I want to just say, shut up and listen.
They get lost in the weeds.
They do.
On the small details when they could be getting a lot more done if they step back and look at the big picture.
And I get that, and I'm empathetic to that gut reaction that people have. But then, there's some people that are just constantly, no matter what, eBay comes back and says, well, we're going to do this. Well, no. And then, eBay's just turning into this. And okay, so whatever your thoughts or feelings are, there's a positive, constructive way to push back if you don't like something. And one of the things that I love about eBay is that eBay takes our thoughts and ideas, and I tell people this all the time. I am constantly sending in ideas to eBay, and I'm not saying that, oh, hey, why don't you do this? And I didn't say, hey, why don't you create a catalog, because that's way above my thought process. But if I'm on a page and I think that something could be done faster, more efficient, easier, or like, hey, why isn't I thought I could find this on this page and it's not, where is it? Just clicking on that comments button does so much good, because it sends the comment to the team that's responsible for that page. And if enough people say, hey, we should have a button. I did one this morning because I was trying to sort my inventory by item location, and the filtering out by the actual words that are typed in there wasn't working. So I sorted it by that column. And I was frustrated because I'm like, why can't I have go to page and let me just type in 25 instead of having to try to filter over to page 25, 3 at a time. And so that is just something that would make the platform easier, more user-friendly. So I just quickly sent something off, positive, and then I'm on my way, and I'm not going to think about that again. eBay may or may not ever do it, but if I think about it, if I come across it again, I will certainly send it in again if it comes up, because once isn't going to be enough. If more people find that idea useful, it's more likely to get moved up on the priority list. And so, it's hard enough to get Amazon to merge 2 product pages together. So I'm grateful for that comment and tell us what you think feedback feature that eBay has almost on every single page. And I'm a big advocate to tell people that that's where you need to be putting in your suggestion. And don't say, this is so stupid, and why do I have to, just say, I was trying to do this. I thought I could find it here, but I can't. Maybe you could put a button that does blah. And that's the way you get things. And eBay will take if you're bitchy about it, they'll take those comments too. But it's just, it's just your approach says a lot. So.
Big Drift Thrift says these policies seem to weed out the poor sellers a bit more quickly, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go through some of the details, but definitely some of these have to do with, a small number of sellers who are really creating some bad buying experiences for our buyers. And I know, and when we get into that a little bit later, Theresa, I know you and I both had a couple of pretty poor experiences as buyers on eBay lately. And when I have that happen to me, it's so irritating, because I know that when a buyer has a really terrible experience with a seller who just is not doing things right, there's a good chance they're not going to want to come back to the platform, because they just see us all they don't necessarily see us as individual sellers. They're just like, oh, I had a crummy experience. I don't want to go buy from eBay again. And so, yes, some things have to be put into place to deal with that. So let's just, Barbara was saying that she wants a Shut Up and List t-shirt in her size. Actually, Theresa do you still have those up on merch?
Yeah, they're on merch.
Okay, I'll put the link to it. I'll add it into this video later, so you can into the description later, so you guys can go and check them out. She has a few different ones with different fonts and stuff and colors. Were you gonna say something, Theresa?
I don't remember.
Okay. Anyway, so let's just talk a little bit. You guys can ask any questions that you want about stuff like Heather was asking about the catalog requirements. Aren't they just for new items? I mean, you know, when you look at that first section, the inventory optimization, it really is about pretty specific categories. It's a lot of electronics, a lot of things that come with like model numbers, and you know, it's all about, you know, like Theresa said, when you have like so many hundreds of thousands or whatever, tens of thousands of results, and they're all the exact same thing, either in new, you know, new condition or new other or used. It's like you don't necessarily want to have like 18,000 individual, you know, responses to your search. And it makes sense. Like to me, that does make sense as a buyer. As a seller, is it kind of scary to think that somebody's going to get top pick, which is like, you know, I know that, you know, they'll say it's not a buy box, but it is like a buy box. It's like top pick. There is, and they're not going to tell us exactly what goes into a certain listing getting to be the top pick, but from my understanding of it, it's very similar to what gets you up to the top of the list in best match. When you, you know, it's about like following best practices. It's about what your return policies look like, what your handling time looks like, what your pricing looks like. There's a whole bunch of things that are going to go into that that's going to kick you to the top. And, you know, most likely if you're somebody with super low feedback and, you know, maybe you have 3 days handling time, you don't take returns, are you going to get into that top pick spot? Probably not. I'm going to guess that you're not going to, but they're not going to ever tell us. They're never going to give us a list of like, here are the things to check off in order to be in that top pick spot. It's just not going to happen.
You just have to go by eBay's best practices. And I say this all the time. They're not, like you said, Katie, they're not going to give us, you know, a list of number 1 through 10. This is what you're going to do to get that box, because I think there's too many variables in that. But if eBay gives us their best practices and you use your best practices, you know, people say, oh, I'm going to lose money and I can't sell on the platform because I can't do free returns. Well, then guess what? You don't have to do free returns. You've got 4 other options. But if you want the best search results, you're going to do free shipping and free returns. I have almost 4,000 listings. They all have free shipping. They all have free returns, because having, I don't know why people won't do this. I increase my prices. And so my prices are higher than other people's prices. I have a bread and butter item that others are selling for $7 and $8 on eBay that I'm selling for $21.99. And I sold 3 of them this weekend. And there's still other listings on there for $7 or $8. So eBay is not price driven like Amazon is. And so if you do all those other best practices, people are going to find your $21 item over somebody else's $8 item. And I can't say this enough. As sellers, we think that all buyers shop like we shop, but they don't. There are more buyers on the platform than there are sellers. And so just because we know how to do all these searches and sort by best, highest or lowest price with shipping or whatever we do, the majority of sellers don't do that. I've kind of taken this unofficial poll with my friends. If they buy on eBay, I ask them, what's the first thing you do? Or when you buy on eBay, how do you shop or how do you search? And most of them say the first thing that they do is click the toggle button that says free shipping. So I know, so if my item is priced at $21.99 with free shipping, and Katie has the same thing priced at $8 with $2 shipping, they're not even going to see hers because she has $2 shipping.
Right.
And so on my unofficial friends that don't sell on eBay poll, I know that most of the buyers are buying using that. And eBay doesn't say, oh, more buyers are using that free shipping toggle. eBay says our best practice is for you to do free shipping.
Right. And the thing is, like you were saying about the discount, you know, 10%, it's pretty negligible. It's really not that much money. It's not like you should not be making your business decisions based on getting that 10%. But it is eBay's way of like signaling to us what their priorities are and what they want us to be doing and what their best practices are and how to be the most successful sellers on eBay. And so when they give that list of things that you have to do in order to get that 10% discount, it's like, yeah, I'm going to get a 10% discount, but more importantly, I'm doing everything I need to do to be as successful as possible on eBay's platform. So if I want to be as high as possible in search on eBay's platform, I want to follow all of these guidelines in order to do that. And what's going to happen is, yeah, I'm going to get a 10% discount, but I'm also going to get more sales because I'm going to have more visibility. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And you can call that you're being punished because you're not following those, but okay, it's their platform. This is what they decided is most important. And they're doing that based off of a lot of data that they have that we don't. So I'm going to listen to them.
eBay is the king of data, no doubt about it. So you just have to have some faith that some things are going to sting as a seller, but overall in the long run, it's going to work out for all of us.
Yep. And I'd rather be as involved as possible so that my voice is heard, so I can be like, hey, I don't know about this change. Like maybe this could be dialed back a bit, or maybe this needs to be changed, or this needs to be added. Like I want to be part of that conversation. I'm not just going to necessarily sit back and go with everything, you know, but I'm going to try stuff first. And so as far as getting back to the whole inventory optimization thing, yeah, people stop freaking out. It's not going to affect you if you're doing like the one-offs, like my vintage Tommy Hilfiger jacket is not going to get put into a product selling page. Like it's not like it doesn't work that way. So it only affects those small number of categories that they put in the release. So if you see that the stuff you sell is not in there, then that's fine. You're going to be okay. If you do sell some of the stuff that's in there, okay, so just put all the information in there. You need it in the item specifications anyway in order to be have the best listing as possible and have the most people find you. So just chill out, and it's going to be okay. All right, so High Desert. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say I just saw that. So High Desert Barb just asking if I do best offer, and I don't, and it's a time management thing for me. I'm not a big fan of best offer. But I will tell you that people will message me and ask me. I got somebody today. I had a listing of 8 items, and they wanted to know if I would give them a discount on if they bought all 8. And so I'm like, I think I have more than 8. So I went, I actually counted my inventory. I have 28 of these items. And so, and they're, by the way, 28 American Girl shopping bags that were free. So I messaged them back and said, I have 28. I'll give you a discount. How many do you want? So yeah, I'm going to give them a discount. I think I've got them listed at $14.99, and I'll probably sell them for as little as $10 a piece if you buy however many you buy, and free shipping. And I'll do whatever he wants for the free shipping as well. And so I don't do best offer on as a rule, but people will email me and I will give them a discount. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, when I've got a sale on and my sale is 15 to 25% off, I'm not going to give them any more markdown than that because my margins just don't allow that. Right. So,
all right, let's get into. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just answer Heather's question about eBay doing a seller app. And let me just tell you, Heather, I'm with you on that, and I talk to a lot of different people, and I actually think part of the problem with eBay is finding the right team that does whatever you need to do. So I actually think I found somebody that is a good person that will take in all these ideas. But you have to understand that there's a priority list. And, this whole catalog thing took eBay a lot of time, and that was a company-wide well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it was company-wide priority, but it took a lot of time to implement that. And so, the more people that talk about having an eBay seller app, maybe the higher that it'll get on the priority list. I plan on talking to some people at eBay Open about that. I'm sure they'll have a mobile team there, but it is something that a lot of us would think it would be awesome to have. I mean,
I'm not a fan of the app as it is. I don't use it to list. I barely use it for anything other than dealing with like best offers and also to go pull my stuff when it needs to be shipped. I know recently, like I don't even like using it to look up comps because it's just the way that it's set up doesn't work for me. And so I would always go to the browser on my phone and switch it over from mobile view to classic view. And I'd have to like zoom in to be able to see it, but I wanted to see it the way it looks on my desktop because it's just for me, the comp results are better and easier to understand and easier to move around. And they recently did something to where I can't, for some reason, it won't let me, when I'm looking, trying to look at comps, it won't let me switch away from the mobile view. Even when I try to do it, it just keeps going back to the mobile view and it's driving me crazy because I'm being forced to do my comps. I can't even look at solds. So I'm being forced to use the app to look at comps. It drives me nuts. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's partly because they don't have a seller app for us.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I believe that the eBay mobile app is a great app for buying. And, you know, eBay, you have to have buyers on the site, or, you know, you have to, I mean, you have to have sellers, or you don't have buyers, and vice versa. But I think it's a great buying app. And I think that we need a separate app for sellers, because once I learned that, you know, they try to do things at a minimum on the app that we have now to make it easier for the buying experience. I totally get that, because if you come to eBay first time buying and you have a terrible experience, you're not coming back. So this is why I understand people like, oh, you're just too good, you're just too nice for eBay, and you're doing this. No, I understand what it's like to work in a large company and have these issues, and it's bigger than what you or I think. And the fact that eBay puts as much time and energy into what you and I think about as small sellers, I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a voice.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so let's go into I'm going to go to the next section, because there's 4 sections of the update. And the next one, which this one's got a lot to talk about, the selling metrics and shipping. And I think this is where we get into trying to weed out some of the bad sellers, because some people look at it automatically as either trying to punish us, and they start, you know, worrying like, what's going to happen? Am I going to suddenly be charged higher fees? Because this is where they're talking about those seller metrics, selling metrics like items not received or item not as described. And eBay does talk about what some of the consequences are going to be if you, as a seller, have an unusually high number of either items not received or items not as described. And of course, there's some issues around that, because people, I know I've personally experienced people choosing item not as described when it really was something that just didn't fit them. So I get it. It does happen. It absolutely does happen. The thing that people need to understand, and I think they did a pretty good job of explaining this during the video earlier today, is that they're not talking about any kind of set number or percentage for you personally in your account. They're looking at your percentage as compared to your peers. And the reason that's important is because there's always going to be a certain number of like these misfiled like INADs, like items not as described, where people use that instead of like a more appropriate reason for returning something, whether they just decide they don't like the color or that doesn't fit them right. That's always going to happen. And statistically, it's going to happen, you know, kind of randomly amongst different sellers from different buyers. And so when you're looking at it from peer to peer, looking at how you look amongst your peers, then even having a couple of those false INADs should not make you have, compared to your peers, a crazy high number of items not as described. So what they're doing is they're talking about people who like legitimately have super high levels of items not as described or items not received. And those are the problem sellers that are creating experiences that hurt the rest of us. I know, Theresa, I had gotten that Boss, what was that Boss t-shirt that I got? So then you went and ordered one. Tell us about what happened with that.
So it's funny, because when you said we both had experiences, I was like racking my brain. What was it? What was it? What was it? So it was. And it's funny because I had that Boss t-shirt on today and I was going to wear it. And then after reading a bunch of comments about the seller update, I went and changed to my shirt, because more than once I just wanted to respond to people and tell them to shut up and list. But so I saw this Boss shirt, and I don't even remember what it was, except for the fact that I bought it on a Saturday and I paid for it, and they uploaded the tracking on Tuesday, and then there was nothing for tracking for an entire week. And then the following Tuesday, it finally got dropped in the mail and then shipped off, and I got it like the following Saturday. So it was 2 weeks from the time that I ordered it. And you know, if this was 1997, we'd be in heaven. But this is 2018, and I expect my stuff in 3 to 5 days. And the thing that frustrated me the most is that when I reached out to them and said, "Hey, what's going on with the shirt? You uploaded the tracking, but I don't see it's not moving in the system." I messaged them 3 times, and not one time did they respond to me. And so had they say, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you know, we had this, or the car broke down, or whatever," I would have been more understanding. But just silence. And so I very rarely give a seller a negative. And I could probably count on one hand the number of times in 21 years I've given a seller a negative, and I gave that seller a negative because they didn't respond, and it took them 2 weeks. And it's like, I wanted this shirt. Lorna bought a shirt. Lorna got her after mine, bought a shirt, got it, flew to Vegas, wore it in Vegas, and was home before I got my shirt.
Well, here's the thing, like you definitely got it way after whatever the expected delivery date was. So really you should have opened an I am not received case. And so what they're talking about here is that if you are a seller and you have this crazy high number of, item not received cases being opened against you compared to your peers, then what they're going to end up doing is they're actually just going to extend your delivery estimates out, because clearly you're not capable of doing that. And is it going to hurt you in your sales? Probably. But we as sellers, we want that to happen because we need there to be some sort of accountability for sellers who are doing this kind of thing. It wasn't something that I had ordered, but I was just on, we were just on vacation in Rhode Island for a week. And so I had I didn't go on vacation, but I changed my handling time. And so I extended my handling time out. And this guy had ordered a T-shirt from me. And so according to my handling time, it wasn't supposed to get shipped out till today, and it did. But he did message me a couple days ago, and he was just like, hey, I was just wondering when the shirt's going to get sent out. And I immediately responded to him, and I was like, hey, I'm on vacation. The handling time was extended on this item, so it will be shipped out on Wednesday. And he came back to me and he was like, hey, no problem. No worries. He's like, it's just the last time I bought something, a similar thing happened. And I messaged the seller and I never got a response back. And he was like, I was just worried it was happening all over again. And so, this happens a lot. There's a lot of sellers out there that, I'm sure all of you have experienced it at least once or twice, where you order something and it doesn't get shipped right away, or you try to reach out to the seller and they don't respond. And all that kind of stuff, those kind of sellers hurt the rest of us. And so unfortunately, things have to be put into place to address that. And so I think with something like item not received, I think that one is everybody can be pretty okay with, because usually when you get that one of those opened, it's because it shows delivered and for whatever reason they didn't get it, whether it's stolen or whatever the reason is. And those are usually pretty easily closed in your favor if you have tracking showing that it was delivered. I do know a lot of people are worried about the whole INET situation. Really, I think this is a case where it's like, I know it seems super scary, like somehow you're going to get all these people opening INET cases on you when it's about fit. And then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself getting charged 4% more in your final value fees. Really, like I said, the whole peer thing. So here's the thing. They're looking at things like when they talk about your peers, let's say you're somebody who does no returns, which I would say you probably should accept returns. But let's say you are somebody who doesn't accept returns. That's going to be a group of sellers that are probably going to see more false INADs than other groups. So like I accept free returns. So anybody can return something to me for any reason. I'm going to pay the return shipping. It doesn't matter if they just don't like it, whatever the reason, they can return it to me. So there's not really any particular reason other than maybe the person doesn't understand what the difference is between doesn't fit or just didn't want it and item not as received or not as described, whatever. So if you don't accept returns, there's more likelihood that you are going to have INAD cases be opened against you. But that's going to be the same for everybody else who doesn't take returns. And that's the peer group that they're going to be comparing you to. So again, even though there's probably going to be a higher number of false INADs within that peer group, in order for you to stand out as having an excessively higher level than everybody else in your peer group, I mean, you're really going to have a problem. So again, it's like, yeah, it seems scary. I know Audrey did say earlier in their video, she said, if you do have a case where somebody opens one and it's a clear case that it was a remorse return as opposed to item not as described, she says, go ahead and call and let them know. So, I don't know. I get people being concerned about it because especially when they say it could potentially lead to paying more in fees, but I don't think it's going to play out like that for most people.
And I'm a big believer in, instead of trying to play, what if this, give it a try. I mean, again, eBay is the king of data. eBay, and they know what the buyers are going to want. If we don't have more buyers on the platform, I mean, it's just give it a chance before you start saying the sky is falling and my world is coming to an end.
Yeah. It's better to try things out. And here's the thing, like, you should be looking at ways to getting this data, these seller, these like selling metrics. It's important to you as a business owner. Like you should be looking at it. I mean, like, is there something I can be doing better? If I had a high number of item not as described, I'd be concerned about that. I've bought things recently where I'm like, they said it was like in good use condition and I just got it and it's in terrible condition. Like you need to be accurate in how you are describing the items that you're selling. You need to be including measurements. You need to be using things like how I use Sizely, which is our sponsor, by the way, Sizely. The website, this is a third-party app where you can put your measurements into your pictures so people can see exactly what it is that they're getting. I can't even tell you how many times I'm looking like a size, the size tag is missing from an item of clothing I'm trying to list. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll try to look at other sellers' listings, and I'll look at their measurements so I can compare and be like, okay, so all the large, let's say Tommy Hilfiger jackets most of them are measuring in this range, and that's what mine measures in. So I can say, it doesn't have a size tag, but it does measure like a large, and then I show the actual measurements, right? And I'll go and look, and it's like, sometimes it'll take 5-6 tries of different listings, and all they say is size large, and there's no measurements. Okay, so it's things like that. A large varies hugely between different labels. Even just between different decades. A lot of times vintage T-shirts, a large looks so tiny. So if all you're doing is putting in what the size it is, and you're not giving measurements, it's like somebody might get this like tiny little T-shirt and be like, this is a large, what are you talking about? Because a large could be anywhere from, I've seen larges that measure 19.5 inches, and I've seen larges that measure 23.5 inches across the chest. That's a huge difference. And so there's ways for you to be avoiding things like getting an INAD, like a legitimate one. All right, so yeah, Lauren is talking a lot about the eBay stores one, so let's go into that one. This is the one I'm having trouble with as well, so I totally get Lauren's pain. So I've talked about this before. My selling model, the way that I do things, I price my stuff super high. Actually, the way I do it is I price my items at double what I would like to sell them for. So I am one of those dirty sellers who is inflating my prices so my original price is super high so that I can basically go back and forth between 40% off and 50% off sales. Every week I do a 50% off sale, and then I followed by a 40% off sale. It goes back and forth. I do that with everything. So I list it, and as soon as I list something, within a few hours, it gets added to the sale. So I might list a jacket for $200, and an hour later, it's on sale for $100. Okay, well, some people think that that's not cool. And there's been lawsuits brought against big companies where they have these false original prices. And they feel like they are, it's a fraudulent way of like kind of tricking buyers into thinking they're getting this amazing deal. And yeah, I'm using buyer psychology to try and get people to buy my more expensive item, because I think I do have superior listings. I have better pictures. I have better policies. And then they see, yeah, my jacket costs $200, but they're getting a great deal because they're only paying $100 for it. So that's the way I do it. Okay, so how do you think I feel that now when I list something, I have to wait 14 days before I can put it on sale? I hate it. I hate it, Theresa.
I know you do, because that's your model. But is it the end of the world for you?
No, and I understand that I understand the issues around it, and I can appreciate that that there are some issues with how you are kind of trying to trick buyers. I get it. And I do think that like for eBay, what they're trying to do is they're trying to have a little bit more consistency when it comes to pricing on their platform, because when you're dealing with all these different sellers, there does need to be more consistency. I get what they're doing. And bottom line is it's their platform, so it's their choice. Do I like it? No. Am I going to go start my own website so that I can do it the way I want to? Of course not. I don't want to do that. I'm sure other people would be okay with that, and they might want to do that. I don't want to. So I think that, what's up?
Here's my thought on that. Is that so price your jacket for $200 and leave it that way for 2 weeks. And you could be surprised that in that 2 weeks, it'll sell for $200, and then you're going to be happy.
Yeah, and that's totally possible. And sometimes I do sell my stuff for full price. It's totally possible. And I'm either going to do that. I could either do that, or what I've also thought about doing, because I think this goes into effect like June 24th or 25th. It's somewhere towards the end of June. So I'm thinking I possibly might just go across and drop, when I'm not in a sale, go across and drop all my prices by about 30%. So their initial price is a little bit more reasonable. And then just doing like a 20, like toggling between a 20 and 30% off sale. So it won't be as crazy, because I don't necessarily, like there's some items I'm not going to want. Like I don't want a t-shirt, some of my t-shirts I price at like $59.99. It's a used vintage t-shirt. And yeah, sometimes I might sell for that much, but sometimes it's a little bit excessive if it's not on sale. So I don't want it to, in that first 2 weeks, drop so far down in the search. So it's like I'm still thinking about it. I got to figure that out. I do think that there's issues with the way that as far as I can tell, it's any price change immediately puts it into this 14-day waiting period. I get the reasoning behind it, but one thing that doesn't really make sense is you should be able to lower your price and still be able to do sales. Because if, let's say you have stuff that's been sitting around for a long time, you have a jacket that you priced at $60 and you've had it on sale and it's just not selling, you might want to drop your original price to $40 and then put it on sale. And I feel like that has nothing to do with like overinflating prices for dropping your prices. But the way it sounds like it is right now, even if you're dropping your prices, then you have to wait another 14 days in order to be able to put that item on sale. So I think that's one way that, maybe I'll try and get that feedback back to eBay and see if that's something that in the future they could change, because you should be able to lower your prices.
Right. And maybe the way that it's the programming is done, that they can only program it to do a price change. I mean, some programmer can figure it out, but maybe right now it's just programmed to do a price change. And so it doesn't differentiate between an increase or a decrease. But here's the thing. I mean, just listening to you, you're going to work on this. You're going to have it figured out, and you're going to, by eBay Open, you're going to have a way that you've kind of figured out that you think works for you. It's not the end of the world. And I don't know, for whatever reason, to me, it's like, I'll list it for 14 days. I'll still run my stores on sale, and the things that are newly listed won't go on sale. To me, I'm okay with that. I don't like putting my new listings on sale immediately. So for me, although I don't do Katie's thing, I do list high, and I mean, what I find is everybody has a sweet spot for their sales discount. Lorna told me at one point that 8% seems to work for her, and I tried 8%. I sold nothing. And I was doing 30%, 25%. Right now, my sweet spot is 15% with promoted listings at 3 to 5%. And when I do those two, I mean, I can just count on a ton of sales for that week. And I've been running shorter sales. I used to go until like Sunday night whenever I'd start the sale. Now I'm doing 3 to 5 days, on my sales, because it just creates a sense of urgency for somebody. So I think that with this, you'll figure out what your sweet spot is for what the discount is. You'll figure out how you're going to list your items, and then you can still do your sales. And when those 14 days fall off, they automatically will get included in that sale.
I mean, absolutely.
Easily fit.
For me, I list all my stuff good till canceled. So on the upside, that's good, because if you have good till canceled, it doesn't get affected by like kind of the starting over of that 14 days. But for people who do their stuff every 30 days, or I know like Lauren's talked about doing 10 days, if you're doing like, anything like that, it's like every time you start over a new 30 day, I think you go back to that 14 days. Because they said the good till canceled is the one that won't do that. So, or if you do sell similar, you're back to waiting that 14 days out. So I get it's going to affect a lot of people. But like I said, if you just go Google something like company sued markups or something like that, you'll see like a lot of stuff like this. A lot of this is a liability issue. It's like, companies really are being sued over these false original prices. And so it's an issue, and eBay's choosing to deal with it in this way.
Yeah, it's a real issue, and it's a reason why I don't to this day shop at Kohl's, because when Kohl's first came to California in my neighborhood, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was, I remember seeing, I bought a strawberry shortcake doll for $24.99 for my niece at Costco. And at Kohl's, it was marked up at $59.99 and 50% off. And that's when I started realizing that the Kohl's price, their regular price, was just ridiculously inflated. And then that's when I decided I would never, ever buy anything at Kohl's that wasn't on sale. And eventually, I just don't shop at Kohl's anymore because I don't like their pricing format. So I think Kohl's is one of those places. I think Penny's and Kohl's is one of those places that got sued for that kind of price inflation. And, right or wrong, it is what it is. And, I'm not saying that this is the reason eBay is doing this, but it certainly, it probably plays a role in why they're doing this.
Yeah, and I think, for me, it's like I don't like this change. I don't like it at all. But I also understand it's not my call, and so I'm going to have to adapt to it. And who knows? Like I said, if I drop all my prices by 30%, and then I toggle between a 20 and 30% off sale, I think my prices will actually be a little bit higher than what they are doing the double with the 50% off, 40% off sale. And I'll have that 2-week period where those prices will be not on sale, but they'll be at a lower price than what I was pricing things at before. And I might see some really good sales with that. Because like I said, I do have better listings than a lot of people do. I feel like because I go with my whole motto of remove all obstacles, it's like I do free shipping, I have free returns, I ship worldwide, I don't do GSP, there's any number of different things that I do in order to make sure as many people as possible can buy. I put best offer on everything. I know I can demand those prices, and I'm not that concerned about selling things super fast. I want to find the right person that's going to pay me more money so that I don't have to ship out 500 items a day. I don't like, I'm lazy. I like to do things slow. So like I had to ship out today. We were gone for a whole week and I just extended my handling time. So my sales were definitely down a little bit, but I had to ship out 42 items today. That's like a whole week's worth of sales while I was out of town. I had to ship out 42 items, which is a ton. I mean, it's way too much for me to do. I wouldn't want to have to do that every day. But I made I did like over $1,800 in sales with that. So, and like 15 of those items, guys, they were international orders. I shipped 15 items internationally today from the last week. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yep. Good for you.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I get it. Obviously I get the pain you guys are going through. But this is where you're going to have to figure out a different way of doing it. And hopefully you can adjust. I know that change sucks. It does. I get it. Okay. So I guess the next thing is the last part is the simplified returns and what that's going to do, or what people's concerns are around that. Does anybody else have any like questions? You guys can, I see you guys have been like weighing in here, and I'm hoping that we're kind of hitting on all the things that people are having questions about. But I get it.
I don't have time to do bulk sales. I love my higher end model. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's no secret. I list my items high. I just gave you an example of a bread and butter item. I've had it listed, I mean, this thing for over 4 years now. I think in May it'll be, are we in May? We're in May. I lost my entire month of May by being gone for 10 days. I think this month I hit either 4 or 5 years on this one listing. And, like I said, everyone else is listing it at $7 and $8 and I'm selling it at 21. Why? Because I have free shipping, free returns. I'm doing all of eBay's best practices. So, when I do a sale now, I usually do a store-wide sale of 15%. So at that $21, I can still make a decent profit with a 15% discount. And it's interestingly enough, I don't sell any more when they're 15% or any less when they're $21. So it's, a lot of it's timing when shoppers are on the site. There's too many variables to say this works and this works and this doesn't and so on and so forth. So you just, like in everything, you got to give it a try and tweak it often until you find your sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So when talking about the simplified returns, I think the biggest thing that people seem to be having trouble with is it going into automation, which, there was automated returns before, particularly if you accepted buyer paid returns. I think before that was already automated, wasn't it, Theresa? Because they would just automatically it would automatically accept your return, because if you accept returns and the buyer has to pay for it, the shipping, then there's no reason not to automate that. But now they're going to be automating other returns as well. And it is problematic. Like if you have another shipping company that you go through where you can get cheaper labels, then you're probably it's going to hurt you, because you're not going to be able to send those labels out to those buyers. I get it. But again, this is a case where I think there's a certain number of sellers out there who aren't responding to return requests, or are letting the time go, before it's like I don't know. Do you remember how many days it was that you had to like respond? It was a long time.
I don't remember. And to be honest with you, this whole thing that the automated returns is probably the one that I know least about off the top of my head, but let me scroll through and see if I can figure out.
I mean, I think it's kind of problematic, because before it's like I do free returns. So somebody wants to open a return, they request to open a return, and I had the option to accept it. And then I could say that I wanted to upload my own label. Well, if it's automated, it's no longer I'm no longer going to have that opportunity to have like the 3 days to upload my own label. Now it's just automatically going to be approved. They're going to be offered a label. I think it's like, it can't be any more than whatever was the cost of the label if you purchase it through eBay. So it's like, if you purchase your label through another company, I don't even know how they'll know what the cheapest way is to send it. So I don't think it's a perfect solution, but I do think overall automated returns are better, because if I buy something and I request a return, the seller takes forever to get back to me, uses up all the days that they have to get back to me. And I mean, the process could take like 2 weeks just to get a label, because of the back and forth and the days that eBay gave. And it's like, how frustrating would that be if you bought something and you're just trying to return it and the seller's not responsive? So they're trying to like make that process quicker. So I get it. I mean, Victoria just got a dress that she ordered to the mail today. And it was like, it's just from some company online, and it was pretty cool. She had like, I think she had like a coupon. So it was a really nice, like custom dress where you get to like put in your, you get to pick the fabric, like the pattern, and you get to choose like the neckline, and then you give them like your exact measurements, and then they make the dress exactly for your measurements and send it to you. So it was really cool. And so they sent it to her and it fit perfectly, but they also sent a return label, a free return label already along with it. So if for some reason it didn't fit her, she could have immediately put it back in the mail and sent it back to them. Like, to me, that's great service. Like, you know, she wants to keep the dress, and clearly that model works for them because they're doing that. Somehow they're managing to do it without going out of business.
Well, they're probably, I mean, my guess is that like FedEx, you can print a FedEx label, but you don't get charged for it until it gets scanned. So,
well, right, of course, but they're making it super easy. Like, they're not waiting for people to have a problem. They're saying like to me, that gives you a lot more confidence in the company that they aren't hassling you around a return. They're making it so it's as easy as possible for you to deal with it if there is a problem. So I don't know. I appreciate it.
I agree. Great model.
I do think there are issues, especially when we know things like cubic priority shipping can be a lot cheaper, and eBay doesn't offer that. And so if there's something that if I send a pair of shoes and I save $10 by printing my label through FitShipper, what's going to happen if somebody wants to return that pair of shoes and it goes through eBay? I'm automatically going to have to pay like double the cost. You know, so that's kind of frustrating, but I don't know.
So then what do? We work on finding somebody at eBay to ask, why doesn't eBay offer cubic shipping? I mean,
exactly.
Like, this is how you make the platform better.
Well, believe me, I think I've already told you, Theresa, that my goal, I don't know, next year or whatever, is to just like harass eBay about shipping rates and shipping solutions. And because I do think that there's a lot of improvement to be made on the platform.
Yeah, and I agree. And I've been talking about it to different people as well. It's like, and I see it in different posts and everything. Like, people want to know shipping. Shipping is hard on eBay, and we kind of get it because we've been doing it a long time. But I help a lot of new sellers, and it is hard. And how, I'm sorry, but Poshmark has the luxury of only selling clothes. So it's easy for Poshmark to do what they do. But, eBay sells cars and they sell coins. Very different things on the shipping scale. And so everybody wants eBay to, be like this, or why can't, if so-and-so does this. But eBay is a much more complicated platform than some of these other ones that they're getting compared to. Yeah,
absolutely. Thrifty Lake Girl says free returns should maybe equal 0 negative feedback and 0 dings for returns. Here's the thing. If you do free returns, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a return. People are going to, especially like in clothing, particularly women's clothing, stuff fits people differently. I don't know if you've ever gone to like go shop for jeans, and it's like you can try on a bunch of different pairs and they're not going to fit you the same. And so if you're doing free returns and somebody wants to return because of fit or because they just decide they didn't like it, that's not going to count against you. eBay doesn't care if you have like a bunch of returns around, remorse returns. That doesn't matter. Like, they want people to be able to return stuff if they need to. So you're never going to get penalized because you have a high amount of returns. It's specifically returns around your stuff not being described correctly. It's like, or if they're getting it and it's not in good condition, or if you ship things that are breakable and a high number of your items are arriving at their buyers all in pieces because you don't know how to properly package your stuff so it gets there safely, like, even if you have free returns, it's like you need there to be some sort of guidelines and what's acceptable to be out there so that a seller isn't like repeatedly giving people these bad experiences. Because yeah, there's a return, they can get their return taken care of, but they bought this thing and it got to them and it was all stained, or they got it and it was ripped, or they got it and it was like way smaller than what it was supposed to be, or they got it and it was broken. It's like, you're going to be disappointed. That was a disappointing transaction, and it was completely avoidable had the seller properly described it or properly shipped it. And so you want to try and like get away from those kinds of experiences for buyers. So
let me answer. Carrie has a question. She says, how is shipping hard on eBay when eBay charges a seller based on shipping price you charge? Shipping is hard for sellers to grasp. And, you know, it's easy for us because we've been doing this a long time and we forget. It's hard, you know, people don't understand first class, priority, you know, cubic shipping, all that other stuff. If you're a new seller, all those things are just overwhelming to figure it all out. And I think that in my meetup group, I have a newbie meetup group, and we probably cover shipping every 2 to 3 months. It's like they can never get enough shipping information. So that's what I mean by it being hard, where, you know, like on some of the other platforms, Poshmark, every seller pays $6.49 for an item to ship that's under 5 pounds. And once they buy it, the label is automatically emailed to the seller. So there's no trying to figure out shipping on that platform. But that's easy because, you know, it's clothes and that's it. And most clothes are going to be under 5 pounds.
Yeah, like I just today, now I bought something from somebody. They only have one feedback, so clearly they're a new seller. But I purchased something from them today. It is an item that I guarantee is under a pound. They charge $3.95 for shipping, but the shipping option they chose was USPS retail ground. So it's economy shipping. So because they chose that method, I mean, I'm assuming that that's how they're actually going to send it, which means it's going to take longer to get to me when it could probably be sent just as cheaply first class. So not only are they sending it to me in a way that's going to take longer, they're also sending it in a way that makes their listings show up as it taking longer. And so people, you know, if you don't know what you're doing with shipping, it's very easy to choose the wrong items. I mean, yeah, it's going to, you know, shipping, whatever price you put on there is what eBay's, you know, what you're going to be charging the buyers or whatever. But if you don't know what you're doing, you could easily send it in not the greatest way, not the cheapest way, in a way that's not going to be the best for the buyer. So
yeah, even people are thinking that, you know, media rate is better, and, you know, you're getting stuff that's not media, sent media. It is more expensive, a lot of times to send it media mail than first class mail. So it's like,
yeah,
you know, people are in that old school that, oh, its cheapest way is media mail. Well, that was maybe the case in 1998, but that's not the case now.
Yeah. And Kara's talking about eBay charging final value fees on shipping. Here's the thing, you guys, they used to not charge final value fees on shipping, but some sellers, again, this is because of a certain group of sellers and how they chose to use that feature. It hurt the rest of us because they were charging 99 cents for an item and then charging $45 for shipping or whatever. They would charge like a really high number for the shipping cost because they weren't having to pay final value fees. Well, once you game the system like that and enough sellers are doing it and it's hurting eBay, of course they're going to have to change the rules. And unfortunately, that's the way it turned out. Now, if you're not charging shipping at all, I mean, it really doesn't matter because your final value fees are going to be whether you charge shipping or not. And it's not a matter of eBay just deciding that they want to make more money off of us. It's that certain number of sellers decided to take advantage of that situation, and they were trying to keep from having to pay final value fees, which it's like, come on, you're using the platform, you have to pay the fees.
I'm amazed at how much work people will go to save 30 cents or 50 cents. But on that, Kara says, I totally understand final value fee, but charging a fee if you charge for shipping, ? So here's the deal.
But that's what it is. It's a final value fee. That's what they're charging because it was taken advantage of.
Right. So eBay, you know, I get what she's saying where, you know, eBay, it's not costing eBay anything. So eBay's charging the final value fee on shipping because of people abusing the system. if they didn't, and there was another way to get people not to abuse the system, then eBay would probably raise their final value fees on everything else. It's like you're in somebody that has done budgets their entire life and finances and stuff. eBay's a company. They have to make money. eBay, I mean, it's a huge company. And so, you know, my $300 a month in eBay fees or whatever I'm paying is just a tiny, tiny drop in the bucket. And so I get that it's frustrating because we're looking at it, oh, I've got to pay this 75 cents on the shipping fee. Well, if you weren't paying it on shipping fee, you'd be paying it more on the final value, the item, the cost of the item. So, and the only reason I'm telling you is don't get wrapped around the axle about this fee and the minutia. Like, just look at the bigger picture and understand that eBay is doing this because of, you know, people taking advantage of the system in earlier years. And if it wasn't on this now, then, you know, your final value fee might be higher. I mean,
and I don't know if anybody out there that's watching right now, if any of you have had your own brick and mortar stores, like even during like retail's heyday where people actually did the majority, all their shopping in brick and mortar stores. If you look at like all the costs associated with that, you know, where it's rental, renting your property, renting the space, insurance, and the amount of like shrinkage that goes into that, like people stealing things, people breaking things, all the costs that go into having a brick and mortar store. I'm betting that if you compare that to the costs that go into selling the same goods on eBay, I would think it's probably cheaper. You know, people talk about losing their money on an item because it gets lost in the mail or because a buyer, something happens to it, whatever. And it's like, okay, so over the course of a year, like maybe I lost a couple of items. If I had a brick and mortar store, how many items would disappear from the shelf?
Yeah, so let me tell you. So my mom had a brick and mortar quilt shop for 17 years in California, and I did her books for her at the end of her business career. And, you know, it's 2,000 square feet just for the rent. Back in 1997 is when she closed her store. Was it 90? Yeah. $3,000, and then you have common fees to pay for the shopping center that you're in. You have electricity, you have your liability insurance, and you have your, you know, there's just all kinds of fees that we don't even. And when I wanted to try to implement a point of service, is that what it's POS? Point of service system. Like, that was going to be a huge expense for her, and I wanted it for inventory and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, all I did was sign on to eBay one day, and I had all of that. And for many, many years, I had it for $15 a month. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, I mean, anybody.
And so right now, it's like what, maybe like 13, depending on like what your fees are, maybe like 13%, 13 to 15% between PayPal and eBay.
Well, I use a flat rate. I use 15%, which is a little high because eBay is 9 to 11%, and PayPal is. I use PayPal. I figure it eBay at 12% and PayPal at 3%. With both of those numbers are high, but I'm a mental math person, so I can do 15% in my head much better than I can do 11% or 13% or whatever it is. And so I figure 15%, and yeah, it's, you know, markup on in a retail store is 100% plus. And you're lucky if you get 10% of that in profit.
Right. So just a little perspective.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I worked for years retail in a record store, and, you know, back when I thought it was a good idea to chase thieves out the door, until I got knocked over in the parking lot inside, it was not worth the $8.50 I was making an hour. But anyway, yeah, every day people were trying to take stuff, and it was a nightmare. And there was just, so I really think that like what we pay for everything that we get, all the way down to like sending people to DC to represent us with our representatives, to all the advertising they do, especially like around Christmas time and fourth quarter. I mean, there's a lot that we get out of that 13%. Well, actually with them, like 10% or whatever it is. Since they're not getting the PayPal's money, but what we pay, like what we get out of that is so huge. So,
yeah, perspective on days where there are seller updates. That kind of perspective is key too. You know, you're upset about the whole thing about the 14 days, and I get it, and you'll work through it. And I'm not. I am empathetic to some of the changes and stuff. I just don't see what people get out of spending 2 days just posting these negative, vile things about what's going on eBay. Take your desire to want things to change and put it out there in a positive way to where your voice will be heard. And eBay does listen to all of that anyway. I mean, it's not like they just, they respond to all those comments, whether they're positive or not. But I would just much rather be in a positive place and like, okay, well, maybe this free returns thing or this automatic returns isn't going to work out because you didn't think of A, B, and C. And, I'm grateful and appreciative that eBay is a platform where even after they've made these decisions, if enough people say, hey, did you think about this? They will go and change it if they agree with it and it's a change that benefits most of the platform.
Yep. And that's the thing, like you said, most of the platform, they have to do things to hopefully create positive change for the majority of the platform. No solution is ever going to work for everyone. That's just the reality of it. So some things are going to hurt some sellers more, but hopefully they're going to help the majority of us. And, we have to try and work through them. And yeah, I'm not super stoked about the 14 days, but I'm going to have to work through that and figure out how I want to deal with it. And for all I know, it's going to turn out to be better than the way I was doing it now and the way I was doing it before. And I'll just have to work through it. But that's the whole point behind our boss Facebook group and our whole boss up philosophy. It's look at the things that you actually have in your control and take control of your own life, take control and responsibility of your own success, because it's up to us how we want to react to things. And I'd rather be proactive and move forward and try to better myself as a seller and as a person than just be reactive and complain about things that I have no control over. And so that's the way I choose to approach things in life and in business. And hopefully it works out for the best.
And so one witch lady makes a good point. She says part of it is frustration. They feel that eBay is not hearing them. And I totally understand that. And I agree with it. I would just, if they would listen, I would just encourage them to go about being heard in a different way. And, like I said, when I find something that's not working for me on the platform, I use that comment and feedback button. And that's what I found is the most, is the best way to get the issue or your voice heard for whatever you're dealing with. And so, eBay, every eBay team that I have worked with and talked to tells me that they love that feedback. And, while I'm just talking about the whole eBay experience, because I do have some interactions with a lot of eBay employees and whatnot. And I will tell you that I've been to eBay headquarters twice in the last year, and eBay loves sellers. I am treated like a I wouldn't say a celebrity, but there was a day when I had about 20 minutes before my next meeting, and I went into this one area, and the eBay employee that was escorting me around said, "Here, this is Theresa. She's an eBay seller. She's got 20 minutes. She's all yours." These people gathered around me, and I was they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're a seller. Can I do this?" And they would ask me questions. They want to know what our thoughts are, what our feelings are, what they can do to make things better. And this one employee interviewed me and was asking me these great questions that nobody had ever asked me. So they want to make the platform better, and they want to hear from us. And I know that because I've been there. And anybody that's been to eBay Open knows that, because any employee that you run into at eBay Open is the same way. They love these sellers. And if you've never been to Open, or if you have been to Open and you don't believe me, all you have to do is take one trip down the clapping tunnel, and you're like, oh yeah, these people love and appreciate us. And to me, it's this is their job, but they like sellers and they like hearing from us. So I totally agree with you, one witch lady, that these people that are reaching out this way might be doing it because they're frustrated and they feel like their voices aren't being heard. And so I would just encourage them to, maybe try a different approach. Not that eBay is listening to their approach. It just rubs me the wrong way. And I'm not an eBay employee, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But, my approach works for me, and maybe that approach works for them, and they can get their frustration out. But eBay listens, so you just got to tell them.
Absolutely. So listen, we've gone like way over, but I wanted to make sure that we got into a decent discussion about this. And hopefully for some of you, this has helped. I will say, please, if you are not in the Boss Facebook group, the link to it is down below in the description of this video. You really should join the group. It's a great, positive environment. We're all about helping each other, lifting each other up, celebrating our accomplishments, and helping each other through any of our difficulties. And so if you're not in that group, you really should be. Come and join us. Come hang out with us. We like to take things on from a positive perspective and hopefully get through and solve any issues that we might have. And of course, today is the Boss Up and List Day, which is, if you don't know, that's our weekly virtual listing party. So if you're somebody who needs more motivation getting stuff listed, you should come be a part of that, because I know that's not always the most fun part, but we're all about helping each other kind of build some really good habits around listing, because the more you list, the more you're going to sell. It's just a fact, guys. So come and join our group. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the little bell notification thing right next to it so that you are getting notifications anytime I put new content up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, you can give it a thumbs down, and I'll just be a little bummed for a while, but it'll be okay. I'll take it as constructive criticism, and maybe there's something I'm doing wrong that I could be a little better at. Anyway, Theresa, thank you so much for coming and being on the show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you. You know, I think it's a good subject. I'm grateful for all the comments and the feedback people are giving about the seller update. This group didn't seem to be as frustrated as some of the other comments I was reading, and you know, hopefully the eBay for Business shows that they did today helped answer questions. I only got to see one. I'm going to go watch the other 3 now, just so I'm up to date. I want to get more clarity on the whole automatic returns thing, because that's the one area that I don't feel like I have a good understanding of. But yeah, so I'm glad to be here. I think it's great for us to be able to, you know, hash things out and talk things out, and just, you know, I don't want to say commiserate, because I don't feel like this update was that bad for sellers.
It was bad for me.
I know, but okay,
no, it wasn't really that bad, but I'll get over it.
Yo, so when you sell your items in the first 14 days for $200, then you're going to say, wow, this was great. Thanks, eBay.
We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be just fine. Again, I get why they're doing it. It's just going to hurt. It's going to hurt me to have to change, but sometimes I have to be affected too, right, guys? That's what I get for being, hashtag positive Polly. Sometimes I have to deal with the changes too. Anyway, thanks again, you guys, for being here, and get back out there and get some more items listed. And as always, boss up. Bye.